Alrighty guys, it is DT here today and I'm back with another video. Episode 8's official trailer has finally dropped on the Glitch YouTube channel, and this comes right after Glitch said we were getting news soon on their Twitter and community posts. However, you may recently recall that I said I was no longer going to be making any Merge Zones content on this channel, and that I would return to finish out with the 8th and final episode of the show, which Cake the Third and I called multiple times actually, where that episode 8 is in fact the ending of this show. Since recent marketing has been calling 7 and 8 the final episodes, but the truth is that this is the end of everything. But right when I announced my departure from Merge Zones content on this channel, until I wrap it all up with episode 8 content, Glitch decides to drop this not even a week after I said so. Great, I guess I have no choice but to go frame by frame in this trailer and break down everything so you don't have to. 5 Merge Zones videos remain, including this one, so without further ado, let's get right into things. And right before we start, a lot of you who watch Drone Throne content are not subscribed, so what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and join our Discord server in the link in the description and link in the pinned comment below. Thank you. And thank you to the channel members that I will have at the end screen of this video. The trailer begins in the same office cubicle that we saw during episode 6 when a worker drone was eaten by a sentinel, and the computer shows a recap of the events of the previous 7 episodes of the show. And the last frame we see of the recap is right where we left off when Uzi fell into the hole of the planet. Right when we see brand new footage here, we see what seems to be Sinessa. I am aware that some people say Tessin, but I prefer Sinessa, so shut up. Rising out of the hole in the planet, and her eldritch tentacles spread out, and all of Copper 9 seems to be turning into a complete apocalypse. Next we see Sinessa doing a peace sign towards the camera, and right away you notice just how much the animation has improved upon. It's absolutely stunning. It's so good! It's so good! If you slow down the footage, the light appears to flicker, which would imply that they are inside, and the lights are going in and out, maybe taking place inside the cathedral, and maybe facing N, since it's likely that N ran back into the cathedral to try and save Uzi, but encounters Sinessa. The next frame we see is Uzi inside of a building, it seems. But this is strange, since last we saw her, she was in the atmosphere above Copper 9.
Hey there, viewer! It is I, Cake the Third, and I want to give you my take as well. Uzi seems to be frightened and may be witnessing Sinessa coming for her or evolving into something freaky and nasty that is happening, knowing Liam Vickers and the eldritch monstrosities that he's known for. Also, there seems to be oil on her face smeared. It could be hers, it may be somebody else's, maybe she witnessed somebody die and it got on her. It can really be anything at this point. And if you look to your left, you will see a wire. Now, this could mean they are in a computer room of some kind.
I'm glad to have Mr. Cake the Third back, but next we see Nori's Cookie's insane stuff, and we get to see all the drawings and predictions float. Since if you remember, the gravity started shifting during episode 7, and as we remember, Nori's drawings were made to warn Khan. However, these drawings are visualizations of what occurred on planet Earth long ago, which we see in brief instances of during episode 7 Mass Destruction when Sin hugged N and we saw the Merge Zones eating the humans. And her ramblings seem to be Nori trying to remember and make sense of all the chaos that has been happening. And to the people like Khan for a time thought that she was just kooky and crazy, but it turns out Nori was right.
Also, viewers, even though we have already seen this kooky closet, it's being shown to us as an in-your-face moment, because Liam wants you to take these ramblings a lot more seriously. Since, if you remember in episode 7, Khan says this.
It's the end times! If my wife's closet is right, the planet's gonna try to eat us soon.
Khan is saying that Nori's closet refers to the end times, and furthermore, says that the planet is going to try to eat them. Khan and Uzi had access to the closet and never knew what to make of them. But now Khan sees it as predictions of the end times, but really, they seem more like warnings of what happened on Earth. And she was trying to prevent the same thing from happening in Copper 9. And from what we've seen, she was completely right. Nori lost her memories during the time she made these drawings, but luckily she regained some of them after she was left to become a squid core by the help of an unknown drone.
Here we see Jay, Miss Zero screen time herself again, another demonstration of just how amazing this animation truly is. It also seems that Jay is going to have a lot more screen time in this episode since she has not been in the center of attention yet. Heck, she's barely even appeared in episode 7, the most we saw from her is getting hit by an actual school bus.
Is right. The animation has definitely seen a huge increase in quality and overall detail. But I want to say what I think is happening in this particular scene. It looks like she is facing Sinessa and points the gun at her. However, less of her life being threatened and more so of she's witnessing something being morally broken. But it's important to note that in Glitch's channel and Twitter banners, we see the release date promotion and we see the two side by side, almost as if they are in the same team, which would imply she knew Spacesuit Tessa was this thing the entire time. However, there's nothing contradicting Jay's knowledge of this. But this poster can be one of two things. Either A promotional image, and not an actual scene in the episode, or B, a real scene in the episode. But regardless, it's being marketed as Jay and Sinessa are in the same team here.
Here we see the core of the planet and what looks to be the real entity of the Absolute Solver in its purest form, or at least the closest we've seen so far, and we can see chunks of the planet.
And here we see Uzi falling from the atmosphere of Copper 9, and I believe this takes place in the early portions of the episode, since if you remember, which I am sure all of you do, episode 7 ended with Uzi floating above the atmosphere. But as we know, what goes up must come down, and as she falls, she burns up in the atmosphere almost like a meteorite or an asteroid. But an important detail to note is that even in the flames, her Hot Topic clothing doesn't become instantly vaporized. In the last few frames of this scene, she essentially becomes a comet.
Next we see Uzi grab her railgun with her tail and is charged up and ready to fire at someone. And it's likely the same new railgun we saw Khan constructing in episode 7, and the same one we saw Lizzie and Thad charging up in episode 7. Another prop to the animation here, by the way.
Here, we see Sinessa regrow her tendrils in what looks to be some sort of bunker or mining facility, and she seems to be fighting Uzi here, which would explain why Uzi looks so worried in the earlier frame. With the footage slowed down, you see Sinessa use her Absolute Solver, as you can clearly see the symbol that appears when it is activated. As well, one of her tentacles breaks the light above them, and you can even see her tendrils have hands, like what we saw in episode 2, Heartbreaks. Kind of like when Tad got grabbed. The next frame we see is Jay with a scope on her left eye, almost as if she's locking onto her target. She may be aiming towards Sinessa, but I have a feeling she may be having a heart-to-heart with N in a toxic sense, almost like disagreeing with another sibling. It's possible Jay may be yelling at N, blaming him for the death of the real Tessa, James Elliott. And as the scene goes on, she continues to speak and appeared mad, which would suggest she's arguing with someone, and I think that's likely to be N. Next we see a common Sauber weapon that we saw Sin Uzi use in episode 7, as we have seen Nori use it, and this is probably Sinessa's version of it. We also see some yellow glowy stuff on it. It could be nanite acid, but it could also just be some kind of special muscle tendon.
Next we see what looks to be Sinessa fighting someone, and she leaps from a guardrail, and we get a clear shot of her high heel, and slowed down you can also tell that her whole body glitches yellow. She's likely going to do a leap and teleport, like when we saw Doll seen teleporting in episode 3 The Promenade, and glitches in and out of existence. It could be possible that Sinessa gained this teleportation glitch ability from eating Doll's core, as when she goes to attack Doll in the first place, we don't see her use it. Also, you can hear her high heels clack as she runs to jump scare Doll in episode 7 Mass Destruction, if you listen pretty closely.
Next, we see Sinessa fighting someone off screen, which could be Jay, and we see a projectile thrown her way. However, Jerome Throne and I disagree on what it actually is. I think it's a spike of some sort, since it's pretty sharp looking, and maybe it's Uzi using her solver to throw something off screen. And she dodges it pretty easily. Drothron thinks it's a missile, since if you pause it at the right time and look carefully, there seems to be some kind of smoke trail.
Next we see N turn towards something off camera and looking worried. Maybe he is seeing something happen to Uzi, or he's just scared for himself.
Here, we see Sinesa's hand tentacle attempt to grab Uzi and misses, but may just be trying to scare Uzi into submission, since I feel Sinesa can kill Uzi anytime she wanted to in this scene. This may take place in the same bunker we saw Sinesa in earlier in the trailer, when she shattered the light, and I feel as though this is early on the episode. Next, we see N fighting, and if you look at the overall background, it appears as though it's the same scene where we saw Tessa dodge what looked to be a missile. And looking at this frame now, looks as though N had shot and missed, which would explain why he has the "darn, I missed" look expression here. But as it plays out in his face, it goes from angry to worried.
In this frame we see Sinesa leaping towards Uzi, but it's just as likely Sinesa is shoving Uzi off of something, and they appear to be floating. What makes me think that she is being pushed off of an asteroid or meteorite is because Sinesa does not appear to have her tentacles out, which would imply this was the start of the actual fight, but it's actually hard to say. Another possibility is actually towards the end of the fight of the episode, and she's just been stripped of her tentacles, but it's more than likely that this is the early portions of the episode and fight overall.
Here we see Khan saying something, and by his body language and mouth movements, he appears to be saying "ha," as he got someone. Potentially he's fighting Jay and got a good hit on her. Either that or he's fighting Sinesa and got some damage in on her. The background also seems to be moving upward. Drothron thinks that this means that they're falling, but I think it's just smoke or a fire in the background rising upward.
And finally, we see the space pod flying in the rings of Copper 9, and the pilot is dodging all of them. And K thinks that this is actually N piloting the ship, since he says in the pilot that he is a pilot, haha funny. And maybe we will get to see his excellent flying skills demonstrated here. And if you remember in the last episode, he actually did get the keys, since Uzi gave it to him. This is probably taking place after Jay encountered Khan and Lizzie, and when N uses the keys to the spaceship pod to go and save Uzi in the atmosphere. That's about all me and Cake the Third could find. However, these next few weeks will be fully dedicated to Mer Drones, and I will be concluding Mer Drones content for good after the episode finally comes out after all this time.
Since you always steal my intros, I'm taking your outro. But let me know down in the comments if you're excited for episode 8. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and take care.